Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. John McGregor reporting from Red Hill Gallery here in Red Hill, Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. And we're very pleased to be here to continue our special series of focus videos for the 25th anniversary of World Expo 88 next year, and a special focus on some of the movers and shakers behind the success story of World Expo 88. So here on my right hand side is Mrs Margaret Campbell-Ryder, who is Director, Curator and also co-owner of the Red Hill Gallery. And I'd like to introduce her husband and partner, Mr Graham Campbell-Ryder, who is also co-owner and director. And Mr Graham Campbell-Ryder is one of the people who is working behind the scenes. As you can understand, an expo is more than just the hosting of the expo itself. It's about the revitalisation of a complete city. And this was couldn't have been truer in Brisbane's case. With the revitalisation of the Queen Street Mall precinct, we saw the Queen Street Mall extended. And at that time, Mr Graham Campbell-Ryder was chair and manager of the Brisbane City Heart Association, which has become, and the Queen Street Mall, as we all know, is one of Australia's most successful mall precincts, and this can be largely thanks to Mr Graham Campbell-Ryder's instrumental work during that time. So without further ado, I'll introduce our Director of the 25th Anniversary People's Committee, Mr Peter Rasey. Margaret and I will make a graceful exit, and Mr Peter Rasey will be directing the interview with Mr Campbell-Ryder from here on. Thank you very much.
Great to be with you.
Thank you.
I have known Graham now for 26 years almost.
Goodness me.
I know, time flies, and it is an absolute pleasure to be here this morning. And I do have in my pocket, just as a memory prod in relation to the first part of it, and you've got to use your little imagination a little bit, Graham, because these are photos of the Myer Centre under construction. And is it David Brown?
Michael Brown.
Michael Brown. Yep. Donated all of his photos, or a lot of them, to the John Oxley Library, and that's where those photos come from. But that hole in the ground was really a talking point.
8 metres below the Brisbane River's level, they went down.
And it was what went for 24 hours a day, wasn't it? For about 3-4 months, just dig.
Elizabeth Street.
Amazing.
Elizabeth Street was quite a wreck in those days, getting down Elizabeth Street.
Yeah, it was a bit, I remember that.
But the great part was the facades of the buildings that they kept, the hotels, the Carlton Hotel, the newspaper house, the New York Hotel.
And the old Pikes building.
The Pikes building. And all those facades were kept, refurbished, renovated, and kept as walls of the Myer Centre forever. And that was a wonderful thing to see.
And I seem to think, and I suppose it wasn't the case, but I would have thought Sally Ann Atkinson was instrumental in driving that. Because was the Myer Centre, well, was it more than the Myer Centre, was that conceptualised on foot by the time Sally Ann got in, or was that something that started after she got in?
The original mall was in '82 and opened in August 1982.
And you drove it, didn't you?
Yeah,
and then you left.
I was very lucky. I was appointed in April '82 to be the Managing Director of the Brisbane City Garden Business Association, the first time ever. And that was set up by a thing called the Queen Street Mall Act in 1982. And we then had a wonderful committee representing the various retailers and businesses in the city. And I had that position for 15 years. But in '82 it opened, and the old Rotunda was where the opening ceremony happened. I've forgotten the name of the governor at the time, Stevens, wasn't it? Ramsey. Because I remember I had the microphone in my hand, Roy Harvey, I invited Roy Harvey, the mayor, and James Ramsey to go and pull the cord on the curtain to show the plaque. And I went over and I had the microphone there, and Sir James said, "They've stopped my bloody name wrong." So then it extended in '88. Robin Gibson was the architect of the original mall, Paul Malone was the architect of the second mall. And I think Sally insisted, or the council insisted, that as part of the REM group, they include the tunnel. They created a tunnel.
And the interesting thing about the tunnel was its actual method of construction. It's not hard to tell I'm a bit of a builder. Noticing that particular, because what they did was that they sunk the foundations down, put the roof on while the road was still there, and then after that was done, they dug the road out. It was just a very unusual way of constructing it. And also, one of the other interesting things about it at the time was that it was one of the very first body corporate structures where public land basically goes in at a level into the Myer Centre, then comes out again, and so you've got private, public, a bit, then private underneath, and it was like very unusual structure and very innovative structuring at the time.
One of the interesting things that people don't realise is that I had a budget of $2.5 million in the early days in '82.
And
We were still
$12
running.
million these days.
Yeah, we had a Christmas parade every year through the month. But all of those funds for the advertising, the promotion, the marketing, the fashion parades, and the hostesses, all the rest of my exorbitant salary, came out of a thing called the Benefit Area Rate Levy. And the Queen Street Mall Act in '82 created that. That meant that only the properties in what was called the benefited area of the Queen Street Mall contributed their extra rates to those funds.
And that was also
so you and I living in the suburbs never paid a cent for Christmas decorations, and it worked like a bullseye. Those properties on the mall paid more than the street out, all the way down to the river, the Park Royal, up to Wharf Street, up to the terrace. It was all in that area.
And I think Denver Beanland was actually instrumental as the finance chairman. If it wasn't Denver, then it was our current Lord Mayor, Graham Campbell-Ryder, one or the other. I'm not sure which one.
Well, later on, it's getting off the subject of Expo, but later on,
True.
that particular idea, the benefit area rate levy, became world renowned for council. We in fact sister streeted at the request of Osaka. The mall in Osaka requested that they sister mall or street with us, and we had an official ceremony of sister streeting their mall in Osaka with the Queen Street Mall in Brisbane, and they brought into being virtually all of those practices about area rate levy, all those things into Osaka.
Now, I love Brisbane, as people may have guessed, and that's the first time I've heard that, but I'm really very happy to...
I had 2 or 3 trips over to Osaka, and they came over here. We had a ceremony on the upper mall, top mall, the signing of the plaques and everything else for the sister streeting. We also were going to do it with Auckland and Queen Street, and they invited us to do it in Queen Street, Auckland, but that wouldn't have quite worked because they didn't have the same geography in their city as we had in Brisbane. We had lucky that Elizabeth Street and Adelaide Street were still able to service the properties on Queen Street, even though you didn't have traffic in Queen Street.
Yeah. So what we might do, just to keep it at a manageable size, is we'll just finish here, and I'll finish it off by doing a little bit of plug. That these are a series of YouTubes, and now we're starting to get more au fait with how to drive YouTube. We've actually setting up what we call playlists, and so there is a playlist on movers and shakers, which was the reason why John used that terminology before, and we're building a series of interviews to give people a feel of what it was like behind the scenes. So in closing, I just say just have a browse through the various YouTubes. You'll find a wealth of various interesting information sitting in it. And with that, I'll say good morning. Thank you.